A way to release pure magnetic energy is by developing this detachment style that will completely transform the energy you are putting out, and it'll allow you to then attract that which you want and literally repel that which you don't want. So in this video, I'm going to share with you exactly what that is, how to have that energy, how to release the codependent, needy energy that is literally repelling love so that you can be that magnetic. Now, the first thing to understand about this is that detachment is one of the most attractive things that you can have. Now, there's two different types of attachment, I would say. There's one detachment where you are detached from the outcome, yet still engaged in being present to the moment. And there's another form of detachment that's like apathy. It's almost like I'm detached because I don't care, and it's almost like the belief underneath that is that I'm not either worthy of it, so why bother trying, or it's just not worth my time and energy. They're very different. However, detachment, while still being present and engaged, is a magnetic quality to have. It's a magnetic style, a way of being. And in this video, the key is focusing on who you are being, because remember, we always get a reflection in life of who we are being. We don't necessarily always get that which we want, because we can want a relationship, we can want love, we can want to be magnetic, but wanting implies lacking. So when we say I want, we're saying I lack. And we're putting out an energy, remember everything is energy, we're putting out an energy that is lacking love, that is lacking the being in a relationship. And the more we want it, the more we lack it. Now, a detachment style, and we could also think of this in the form of attachment styles. Attachment is the root of all suffering. When we are attached to what somebody else thinks, when we are attached to someone else's validation, when we're attached to what someone else does and we're attached to outcome, that is what is called needy energy. Needy energy is repelling. Non-needy energy attracts. Now, why is that? Let's look at the form of neediness and why this completely changes the energy dynamic when we begin to embody non-needy energy. Now, needy energy is when we value and we put importance on what somebody else thinks and feels about us. And we even tune our own center of gravity to that person in order to get their approval, validation, or whatever it is. So neediness is when we externalize validation, approval, and we also make other things outside of us more important. What someone else thinks more important. Now, non-neediness is when we make it and we turn it inside and we say what I think is more important. Not in a narcissistic way, but it's in a way of understanding our own sense of value and embodiment. That unhealthy way would be narcissism. Narcissism is where what I think matters and nothing else anybody thinks. It doesn't make any difference. It's like nothing anybody else says matters, only what I think matters. The difference is when we don't value other people's approval or validation over our own, and we're not tuning ourselves to other people in order to get our needs met. And that's what needy energy is. What we are really needing is we need other people to meet our needs because our childhood needs weren't met. So when we're adults, a lot of times what we're doing is we are replaying similar childhood dynamics that happened when we were younger. And the thing is if our childhood needs weren't met, maybe mom or dad was physically or emotionally unavailable, maybe they were criticizing, maybe they were abusive. What can end up happening is in adulthood, we're attracting similar people, different people, obviously not our parents, but similar energy to reflect back that familiar dynamic because that feels safe and comfortable. Now what happens is if mom and dad didn't meet the needs growing up, we then look to our partner and we're secretly hoping our partner can close the loop from childhood to meet our childhood needs. But normally we attract similar dynamics that we're working on energetically. So neediness a lot of times means that in childhood there were needs that weren't met. And what we're now trying to do is to get our needs met, and we're looking at it through our partner thinking they are going to help us. Now, the challenge with this and the problem with this is that once again, we're externalizing our own power. We're externalizing and putting our validation and approval and what other people think about us on a pedestal. Instead of getting to the core of who we are to then embody like the most empowered version of ourselves. Now, normally what happens as well is, I'll get to more in this in a minute, but this normally stems from that of an abandonment wound. Feeling emotionally or physically abandoned as a kid, making a choice, and normally having shame, a belief that says I'm broken, there's something wrong with me, but then making a choice that I'm going to be perfect. I'm going to get everyone to like me. I'm going to tune myself to others to feel safe, because that's what the mechanism was in childhood. If I was good enough, mom and dad wouldn't divorce. If I was good enough, they wouldn't have left. But what ends up happening is we externalize our own sense of happiness. We externalize all of that, and we're looking to the outside to change, when of course the way that it works is we must first change on the inside going out. Then the reflection begins to change. Now, I was reading a book last night. It's called Detached. It talks about attachment styles, and this video is about detachment styles. But in general, attachment styles are ways that we attach to other people. And there are 3 different forms of this, according to the book Detached. And if you go online, there's going to like 7, people get so tied up with these identities. They're like, there's 7 different ones. This dismissive, codependent, penguin or whatever. It's like all these different ones. But in general, let's keep it simple. There's 3. And the 3 are, on one hand, secure attachment. Secure attachment is when you're able to give love and receive love equally. If somebody is having a bad day, you don't internalize what they're doing and say, ooh, it means there's something wrong with me. You don't change your center of gravity and completely give up your own sense of groundedness to fix somebody else. And at the same time, you don't walk away and say, screw you. You are able to be present. So secure attachment means normally in childhood, your parents were attentive to your needs, but not overbearing. And you were able to give and receive love equally. And now in adulthood, you have that secure attachment where it's easier for you to be in that kind of dynamic. So that's the one that is like the most healthy. Then we have anxious attachment. Anxious attachment is when someone leans in for love. That's when somebody is maybe needy or wants somebody else's approval or validation. These normally, as a kid, mom or dad didn't meet the childhood needs, and therefore they felt like, ooh, there's something wrong. I'm not getting my needs met. Maybe if I'm a little bit different, maybe if I do this or this, then I can get my needs met. So anxious attachment normally is people that lean in, people that crave, people that want closeness. So that's anxious attachment. And then avoidant attachment is normally people that feel like there's some type of trust wound there where they can't trust. And they normally want a lot of independence. They do not want that intimacy. They want to keep love at an arm's length. Not closer than an arm's length, but also not much further away than an arm's length. They just want to be here. Now, normally there's more single people that are avoidant. There's more avoidant people than pretty much any other demographic, because secure people tend to be in healthy relationships. Anxious people tend to maybe not even date because they're still thinking about, well, they tend to date, but it's just a different energy, where avoidants tend to fill up the dating pool. So with these 3 different attachments, though, I was looking and reading this book last night, and this is what I think can really help you change your life, because it changed my perspective on this whole entire thing when I was reading this book last night. What makes the difference is, so you could say on one hand that the anxious attachment, they normally have the abandonment wound, and so does the avoidant. But the abandonment wound to them means there's shame there, I feel broken, there's something wrong with me. And then what happens is they carry that belief around, and they attract people that reflect back that belief that I'm broken, people don't choose me, those kind of energies. Now, a lot of what's happened, though, for people that are anxious that I found, because I was anxious, was I was wanting other people to meet my needs. And what happened is I realized there was this people-pleasing mentality that I had, and I would tune my own center of gravity to whoever I was dating, and it would depolarize things. What I realized this was the abandonment wound and the shame that I felt that I was broken. And what I had to do is I had to stop abandoning myself. And the key and the secret to this is having vulnerability, being able to express the real me, because shame hides in the dark, trying to hide this like polarizing people, trying to hide the real me. But it's like, no, I need to be the real me and be vulnerable and express what I think, express what I feel. Normally, anxious people will be afraid of showing their emotion because they don't want to get rejected. But actually showing the emotion in a way that is healthy, expressing, oh, this is how I feel about you. I want to date you. I want to take you out on a date. There was like this people pleaser mentality where I was almost afraid to express that when I was dating 2 years ago, 3 years ago. The key though is stop abandoning yourself and to start living by your own compass in a way instead of tuning to everybody else, and to start being vulnerable, to start showing the real you. That was the cure for anxious. And what that really is though is that's an identity shift. You shift out of this, you become aware of this old identity, an old way of being to get your childhood needs met, and then you start living by the virtues of vulnerability, and you start living by the virtues of authenticity. That's what changed everything for me. So that begins to change, and that's the identity shift that is necessary. Now, on the avoidance side normally has trouble trusting. And normally it's because there was some level of trust that was broken in childhood. Could have been a parent, could have been a parent cheated on another parent, very common. But trust is somebody let you down and you've made a choice that says, I cannot trust anymore. Now, once again, there's a lot of times as well, you don't trust yourself. Just like the people pleaser, anxious, abandon themselves a lot of times, then what happens is the avoidant may abandon themselves because they think it's safe. They may abandon themselves, they may not trust themselves, trust their own intuition. So the thing to realize this is what we want to do is become aware of these patterns and then wire in new values that help to put us in the more secure, healthy way. And the values that I highly recommend, whether you're anxious or avoidant, is vulnerability, because that's the cure to shame, and authenticity, being authentic to who you are. So, and then it's also, the vulnerability is so important for avoidance because normally they have this intimacy block where it's not safe to be intimate. But the more vulnerable you are, the more free you actually feel, and the more you can then open your heart, which is really the key to this whole process. And then in the secure attachment, there's no healing really necessary. There still can be problems in relationships. It doesn't mean that like things don't come up. But in general, the secure person, their sense of identity. See, this is all belief systems, by the way. When you talk about the secure person, they believe they deserve to be loved and they believe that they can give love. They expect, in a way, for their partner to be emotionally present and they feel grounded in who they are. That's their belief system. Maybe some people have it easier than others based on how they grew up, but that's their belief system. The anxious believes love is going to leave. They're not worth being sticking around for. They have to hide who they really are. People get fed up quickly. They believe they have too much energy, and they're not enough the way they are. And that belief system, it projects out, and normally there's something called the avoidant and the anxious trap. They attract each other. Avoidants do not normally attract other avoidants because they're both independents, and they don't attract other people that are independent. They both need somebody that's going to keep that trap alive. The anxious needs the approval and validation of the independent person, and the independent person needs someone to need them, even though they don't want them to get too close. It's a very interesting dynamic. But the answer and the key to this, and then with the avoidant, as I was saying, they believe that they can't trust anybody, everyone's going to let them down, they're going to other people are too much for them, they're going to lose their sense of independence. These are all different belief systems, and the answer and the key to this detachment style is not the Goldilocks and the three bears where one bed's too hard, one bed's too soft, and then one is just right. This is where you can be present, you can be and show up for your partner, but not like do it too much to where it's being needy. And it's really about where the energy is coming from. So pure magnetic energy is, once again, it is detached yet engaged. It is present, but it is not attached to outcome. And it is aware. That's the other thing too, is becoming aware of these different energies. And that's what really changes everything. And that's what really allows you to be magnetic. Now, something I'm doing is, if you haven't seen yet or signed up, I am going to be doing that of text messages where you can text me your questions, And I text you 2 or 3 times a week, the epiphanies I'm currently learning, the books I'm currently reading, and I do that via text message. So if you haven't texted me yet, text me at 424-304-0104. I'll put the link in the top description box below. And then also, if you have not done the frame technique yet, it is the most powerful technique for developing magnetic energy from the inside out. Listen to this video for the next 21 days and watch what happens. People that are highly sensitive or empathic, what happens is when they were kids, when they were younger, they went through some type of trauma where they had to tune themselves to their outer environment. Maybe they had to tune themselves to their mom or their dad. And what happens is if they weren't getting their